to the last case for this week of Fair Friday. For the last case of this week, we're actually going to India. If my memory serves me correctly, I've actually never, covered India. As far as I know, I could completely be wrong. And so, of course, if that is true, I guess we're making this the first case out of India. So, there you go. This case actually was pretty infamous for good reason, because it took almost 30 years for the killers to actually be arrested and tried and all that good stuff. And sadly, there's no information about our victims. Of course, this is another case where most information that is available online is pretty much about the murder. So, of course, I am going to display this the best way I can. Of course, all sources down below as always. And let's get started in the video.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
Our victim is a nun, and I'm going to refer to her as sister because, well, she was a nun. Even though, her legal name apparently was, Bina Thomas, she's going to be referred to as Sister Ahaba, because that's what she is, that's what she's better known as, if that makes sense. So, yeah, Sister Ahaba was born and believed to be 1973. Again, no date of birth information. I don't know why, sadly. So, apparently she was attending this college called BCM. And so, on the fateful day of March 22nd, 1992, because we're just going to jump straight to the crime, she apparently is studying for exams, as many college students do. She gets up at 4 a.m. to go down to the kitchen because she's staying in a convent, because remember, she's a nun, or studying to be a nun, depending on what sources you want to use. So then she goes down to the kitchen, she walks in and finds a nun and two fathers. So they're Catholic, so they call them fathers, right? She walks in on a nun and two fathers, basically in a threesome. In the kitchen, where anybody can walk in on them. And I guess they thought it was 4 a.m., anybody can walk in on them. So since somebody walked in on them, even though Sister Ahaba, according to her brother later on, said she was a quiet girl, they basically felt they had to kill her. So of course, the nun, of course, is Sister Sephy. The first father is referred to as Father Thomas, and the second father is referred to Father Jose. So that's what we're going to call them, because that's how I have it memorized in my head. So Father Thomas taught psychology, and Sister Sephy was in charge of the hostel that the convent was a part of. Exactly what Father Jose was doing, I don't even know. I didn't see any titles to what he was doing, because he really isn't a major part of the story, apparently. So I don't know where the hell this axe came from, but apparently there's an axe. She gets hit in the head with the axe by Sister Sephy while Father Thomas is strangling her, which I feel like that would have left bruises on his hand, because she is eventually thrown in the well, basically to dispose of her body by Sister Sephy and Father Thomas. Her body is eventually found in said well. Her slippers were found, one by the kitchen door and one by the fridge, so they didn't try to remove the shoes. So then, of course, her death was written down as suicide initially, but after a lot of protests, apparently they decided to change the verdict to murder. And so Sister Sephy even had the audacity to write an 8-page paper basically saying that Sister Ahaba suffered from psychological depression, which if she did, we don't even know because she's no longer here with us, sadly. And that she came from a poor family and that she was not deserving of the studies that the opportunities of the studies that she got while at the convent that they were at. And so in 1996, the results, whether it was suicide or murder, were said to have been inconclusive. In 1999, it was said to have been murder for sure, but no suspects, which apparently that didn't satisfy some people for obvious reasons. And in 2005, so 13 years after the murder, it was labeled untraced because they still haven't found the killers. So on September 4, 2008, the High Court of India basically transferred over the case to the Delhi units, basically so they could take over the case. And in that same year, all three, so Sephy, Father Thomas, and Jose, were all arrested. So of course by that point they realized it was them. And so sadly, on November 28th, 2008, there would be a man by the name of Augustine who would sadly take his own life after being falsely accused of being involved in Sister Ahaba's murder, and after he had suffered through hours of mental torture during interrogation. And so in 2009, the CBI apparently got 177 witnesses, so that's a lot. I mean, that's good because it's a murder trial. We're trying to put these people away. And so apparently a narco test, which I'm assuming means like a drug test, was done on all three, and they all, of course, confessed to her murder. Well, Sister Haba's father told a member of the Chief Justice that somebody on India's Supreme Court was trying to dispose of evidence. So that way, I guess these people can get off because there's no evidence. So like, how are we gonna charge them? You know. And so, of course, sadly, some of these confessions were not admissible by court. And over the years, since this happened back in 2009, a lot of the witnesses have since died. Sister Haba's father did sadly die on July 24th, 2016, and apparently her mother, so the victim's mother, Sister Haba's mother, joined him, so she died too 4 months later. And another key member apparently who also died was a former Mother Superior who apparently was the watchman and apparently was the watchman on the night of murder. And at least 9 witnesses that are still alive and apparently since turned hostile, I guess in fear of retaliation. And so, of course, her father, before he died, and her brother, who apparently is still alive, they obviously were fighting for justice, right? So these people weren't getting off light or like getting off scot-free. And apparently even called the attention of a young activist in India named Jamal. So, of course, in 2020, doesn't say when in 2020, but apparently in 2020, a thief by the name of Adaka Raju had come forward saying that he was there the night of the murder and that he was a witness, but he basically was told to stay silent. And so, of course, he is a thief. So he's going there to steal copper to sell them. Because, obviously, apparently copper over there is, like, very valuable. And so while he's there, he sees, like, 2 priests going down the back of the stairway of the convent, which, of course, obviously would be Father Thomas and Father Jose. Well, Sister Sephy and Father Thomas are arrested. They apparently are released on bail again. So, of course, at the trial, it said that Sister Haba was living a happy life, so that way, like she wouldn't have killed herself. And then it said that the accused, so Sister Sephy and Father Thomas, had often visited the convent, as nuns and fathers do. So, then, of course, on the night of the murder, I guess they had, like, dogs for, like, security reasons. There were no dogs barking, meaning that whoever, like, broke in and killed Sister Haba were, like, regular visitors, and the dogs recognized them. So, of course, 2 men were identified as being there that night. One, of course, being Father Thomas. Father Thomas apparently did admit his affair to someone else, and Sister Sephy did as well. So we don't even know if it's the same person, but they did wind up confessing their affair to somebody. And so this isn't crazy enough. Apparently, this is the first time I've ever heard this. Apparently, there's like the surgery that she had because when you're a nun, you're supposed to be like not having sex, so you're supposed to like not have sex like at all. And so Sister Haba, obviously, she wasn't following that rule. And so obviously, like, it's gonna show. Apparently, they did like virginity tests. So she went and got surgery to like make it seem like, hey, I'm still a virgin. When obviously she's not. But like, you gotta do what you gotta do. So then, of course, in their last sort of saving grace, was what they thought was, they tried to say that Sister Haba, along with her family, had suicidal tendencies. Hence, why her cause of death would be suicide, not murder. And so, of course, that obviously didn't work, and both are charged with life in prison in December of 2020. And 7 years was added to their sentence for destruction of evidence. These sentences will be served together, so like the life sentence and the 7 years. Thomas was served to pay about $700,000, which of course that's US, that's not rupees, which is like what they had over there. And Sister Sephy was made to pay about $600,000. So you're probably wondering, what the hell happened to Jose? Well, apparently Jose was let off for lack of evidence back in 2018. So I guess like there was he wasn't involved directly in the murder, but he was involved like disposing. But they was like, we ain't got shit on you, so like you free to go. So we don't even know what he's doing now, but we do know he's out of prison. So in May of 2021, this is after the pandemic hits, Thomas and Sister Sephy are granted parole for 90 days due to COVID, despite activists obviously disagreeing. And so apparently, about like 4 months ago, so March of 2023, at the time I'm recording this video, apparently virginity tests were declared unconstitutional, and Sister Sephy had apparently done the virginity test in 2008, and those results were leaked. And she said she's glad that it's no longer constitutional, even though after you've already been exposed for like doing a nasty outside of marriage. But of course, that's the end of what I have for this video, because it was publicly known. If anybody knows where Father Jose is at, definitely let us know. Because, I definitely want to know where he at. Is he still doing what fathers are doing? Anyway, so yeah, that's, I guess, the first Indian case I have for this channel. If I have any more with enough coverage, I'll definitely let you know. This one, there is a good amount of links down below. Pretty much says the same thing over and over again. You know how I be. So yeah, with that being said, that's it for this week, and I'll see you for next week. Bye.
So if I play dead, will you regret everything that you did, that you said? I don't think you understand what you're doing, and my heart's black and blue from the bruising. I feel like when